You know something? I do too. Um, anyways, I was just thinking about something like I usually do. And, I've always kind of had the approach of I'm just gonna go straight through the mud of my ego. I know I got an ego. I'm an artist. I know I'm good at what I do. That's exactly it. I mean, like, I don't really care that I know it sounds pretentious. I'm not the greatest, thing since sliced bread. I'm just another artist, really. I'm not that great. But here's the thing. I know I have historical value, and it's really hard for me to let go of that. I do let go of it, and my way of letting go of it is just straight up saying, hey, I have some serious historical value here, and it would be a goddamn shame if people didn't, recognize it somehow. I'm not asking for a whole lot, but in reality, I should be in museums and history books and at least a little bit recognized. I mean, I'm not, the greatest person in the whole wide world, but I've got good character and I've got integrity with what I do. And I really gave my whole life to it. There's not very many other artists that really actually do that. I mean, who's to say what that means? On a business level, on a success level, it's all different. Everybody's version of success is so much different. And my version of success isn't money, it's what I do with my time and what I've got. And not what I've got, but what I do with what I've got. You know, even if I don't have a whole lot, even if I'm getting screwed over unmercifully by the places that I work, and I'm grateful for them anyways, but you're not paying me half as much as you should be for me having to, put out all this energy and do this hard labor for you. It's difficult for me to be grateful for that when it doesn't really get me anywhere, really, when it really should. 20 years ago, I easily would be able to afford a house. I'd be able to afford 2 or 3 houses with how much I've worked, and yet I don't have any money in my account. There's nothing that anybody can really say to me that's gonna stop me from getting through that ego and getting through that mud. That's how I like to look at it. It's a lot of people look at it as like, just avoid it. Don't get yourself muddy. And it's like, no, I'm gonna go straight through that mud. I don't care if I get dirty. There's something to that, you know. And maybe I'm not even the best at getting through that mud. But hey, I'm gonna take that approach every single time. I'm gonna stay consistent to that one thing. You know, my integrity to it, my heart, and my love that I give out. I live and breathe this stuff, and a lot of times I'm not in an environment where I can sit here and talk about that all the time, and it kind of sucks, that I lose a little bit of it every once in a while because I'm not always surrounded by people who really understand, you know. I'm not sitting there asking for everybody to be like, oh, you're great, oh, you're good. Like, all the compliments are actually kind of annoying. Really. Like, I don't, like, oh, good job. It's like, it's not, that wasn't genuine. Like, that wasn't really that genuine. Like, sit down and say, give me constructive criticism, or like, give me something real with like real substance to it. Like, or show me like, hey, this person did this and it was great, and I see that in you, or whatever, like something like that. Nobody does that. And it's so disingenuous to me and discouraging that people don't see that. And it's like, man, I did all this stuff and looked up to all these great people, and people don't even recognize it. People don't even know that, you know, I've taken all these little bits and pieces of them, and I've found my own. I've found my own originality through that. And a lot of people's originality is so shallow nowadays. And they just spice it up and sugarcoat it so that they can get a whole bunch of money, and they think that that's success, and that's not it at all. There needs to be so much less of that, because it's ruining everything. Not just art, everything. You know, everybody's got such a bad mindset. You know, I think they're all great and the bee's knees, but they can't accept that they're not that great. And a lot of people just like to be this big flashy thing and distract from everybody. It takes a lot of time. I don't mind if people don't like it. It doesn't bother me. It takes a whole lot of time. You're never really going to be able to swallow me. Even if you dedicate your whole life to my artwork, you're never going to really get through it all. Even if you do get through it all, you're probably going to forget, you know. So what's the point of me doing all this stuff if it's so historical, you know what I mean? Am I really going to be up there with Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Picasso, Van Gogh, Monet, Manet, Munch? You know, those are just some of my favorites. The most influential to me, off the top of my head. Pollock is another one. Grant Wood. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. I do believe I would fit in with that crowd. Maybe I'm not quite as great as they were, but I you know, just where I'm at in time, they already invented a lot of these things that I could have invented, but they already did. So, you know, all these innovations of, you know, how you go about painting and your paintmanship. I have my own style with that. I have my own niche with that. I have my own fingerprint with that. A lot of people just copy somebody, or they just, you know, try to make it look like a photograph, and it's like, no, you got to make it look like you painted it. That's always been my thing with it too. It's like your signature. It might be a little bit different each time you sign it, but nobody can sign it like you can. I mean, they can forge it all they want, but it's not whatever. But you know, it's the original thing. It's the real deal, you know. That's what I go for. It's me, you know. And it takes an artist to really know that. And there's not very many real artists out there. A lot of people paint, but they're not really real artists. They don't really live it. They don't really understand, you know, how much real thought goes into it. I mean, it's so easy to take the first thing that comes to your mind and that's it. But no, it's so much deeper than that for me. Like, I sit there and really process a lot of these ideas that I have, and really, really, really process them as much as I possibly can. And, you know, I generally take the ones that rise to the top and try to focus on those. And I still also get a lot of practice. And I do lesser ones, and I put them in books and things, and I try to make it as simple as possible so that I don't waste so much time, that I can get my point across at least. That's pretty much it. It doesn't matter the paintmanship on those as much. I still like to try to add a little bit of, you know, something to it. Again, I don't want to really just sugarcoat it. I want to really genuinely give it something unique and something actually like, oh, like you did that. Like, that's kind of, you know, you can take little bits and pieces of it here and there. It's my house of cards, I guess, you know. It all falls apart eventually, but it's all there, you know. It's all there for you to put together in whatever way that you want to. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, each and every artist is like that, but a lot of people don't really understand that side of it, is that it's always different every time you do it. I mean, it's the same person, it's the same sort of thing, but time moves forward and you end up aging, and there's sort of a timeline, and there's eras to it that a lot of people don't really understand. They want it now. They want it the same every single time, and it's like that's not how that works. There's an evolution to it. There's layers to it. There's aging and growing and processing and all these things to it. It's so much deeper, and like there's entendres, and there's all sorts of devices, and then there's like little tricks and tips and painting style and composition and stuff that people don't even recognize on the surface level. They just think, oh, like I'm looking over here, they think, oh, it's a deer, that's cool, I like deer. And it's like, you don't understand at all, like, the depth of what that really means to me. It's like I'm a mutant buck. I've got all these different antlers going on. I got all kinds of eyes and tails and legs, and I'm in the darkness, and I'm, that's, how I see the light. And that's where I was at the time. It was a 25-point buck, and I was 25 years old at the time, and that's just kind of where I felt like that's where I became an adult. It wasn't when I was 18, it was when I was 25, And I feel like that was sort of a time that I needed to capture, because that's sort of a big pivot point in my life. That particular age, for me at least. I think it's different. People bloom and mature at different rates, of course. I happen to be somewhat of a late bloomer. But it doesn't mean I didn't bloom. Just because nobody was there to see it. Or maybe there's more people there than most people get, when they bloom. I don't know. It's always so interesting to see how time unfolds. A lot of time it doesn't. It's disappointing. A lot of times people have negative things to say about it, or, oh, this guy's crazy, like, just forget about him, Most of the time that's what it is. It's a shame, but, that's what they get. If they don't want to spend the time and see that I've actually got a whole lot of substance here. That there's a whole lot of original quotes that I have that if you take the time to look through a lot of the stuff that I do, you might really expand your consciousness, and you might really find something that really gets you through your life, not just your day, but your whole life, and like really gives you a whole motto towards everything. And my mind is so open to everything, always. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying I'm the greatest. I'm not. I'm accepting of that I'm mediocre. I'd rather be mediocre than the best, because I feel like a lot of the time, those people, they end up getting kind of corrupted and misconstrued, A lot of my favorite artists ended up being that way because they were famous and they messed it up. That genuine, like, I had to work for everything that I had. Now that I've got everything, it's over. Like, I can do whatever I want now. It's like, what? Like, I always go back to the little bit about what Kurt Cobain said when he got famous is, it's like a thrift store. Like, you go to a thrift store, and it's like, normally you'd go in there and you'd buy you'd search the whole store and you'd find one little thing, and it'd be like the greatest treasure ever, and you'd treasure that little treasure, and you'd really love that little thing. And once you get famous, you can just fucking buy the whole store. Doesn't mean as much, And so I like to try to keep myself down to that level as much as I can. I'm not saying I don't want success. I need success to keep doing what I'm doing. That's kind of where I'm at this moment. Like, I've got to start allowing myself to be not so stingy and not so... be slightly more greedy. I think I've got enough room in there to say I'm still not greedy at all. I'm extremely generous. But at the same time, I do need to kind of let go of that a little bit. I think I've been a little bit too generous. And I need to start accepting that, I'm worth it, and I've got to start getting better at, helping people see that I'm worth, the weight, I'm worth the the money, I'm worth sitting down and really trying to figure out what I'm saying, rather than to just immediately dismiss it and I'm crazy and, a waste of time or whatever. That sucks, man. It's like, damn, you really missed out big time. And a lot of people's approach to it is just not good. And I can't sit there and tell them that you've got such a bad angle on me. You've got such a bad approach on me. Really, really sit down and think. Like, think beyond thinking. Like, think deeper. Think twice. Think 3 times. Think about your thoughts and how you approached your thoughts and how you can grow upon those. And, it sounds crazy, but that's pretty much my approach to it. And I feel like a lot of people can really what's the word? Can really benefit from that. I mean, a lot of times when they do that, they leave me behind and they forget I was the one that got them there. Like, you wouldn't have understood that unless I made a fool out of myself for you to see that. More often than not, that's what I get. So, again, I'll just take what I get, I guess, and, try to have a good attitude about it and make the most of this life that I got here. And maybe someday people will start to understand my perspective a little bit better. I think, it's beyond my life. I've always said that it's posthumous, and people aren't really going to understand until, hundreds of years from now when they look back on our culture. They're going to understand why I was the way I was in comparison to a lot of other people who were the way that they were. A lot of people, they did have a better outlook on life than I did. I did have it a little bit harder than a lot of other people, but a lot of people had it a little bit harder than I did. I fit somewhere in the mix of that, But like I said from the beginning, I know I've got some sort of historical value here, and that's the only thing that I haven't really let go of. I'll let go of everything else, but that's not what I'm going to let go of, because that's what's real. That's what it's all about, And yeah. This, I hope someday that somebody will really take the time and figure that out, me included. So, anywho, I gotta get back to it and keep doing what I do. So, keep on doing what you do. Peace.